Welcome to Varjo's Chroma Key webinar. Amazing that you all could join us. My name is Jussi Mäkinen. I'm our Chief Marketing Officer.
And I'm Urho Konttori, Chief Product Officer and Founder.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Before we get started, of course, addressing the current situation, hope you're all safe. Everybody at Varjo are currently working at home, so we are here in an almost empty office with Urho. Hope you are all safe, and of course, safety of our own employees is super important to us, so that's why everybody are working at home. But at the same time, we are working 100% sure, giving all the support for our users and making sure that business operations run perfectly day by day.
Not only for us, but especially for our customers, of course.
Exactly. So that you can trust. But we have an amazing show today. So we will kick off with a presentation on the Chroma Key applications, how you can use them. And then hopefully we will see some demos as well. And then at the very last, we will have a chance to have a Q&A session with the people who are behind our Chroma Key and marker features. We have Ville and Saku from our mixed reality team answering your questions.
Yeah. So please, during the presentations, do add questions onto the website. It also helps Saku and Ville to prepare to answer them as well as possible. So that's going to be helpful as early on as possible, more time for good answers. Thank you.
Yes, and just a reminder, the Varjo Base 2.2 is now out, so all the features we are talking today, the Chroma Key, the markers, are available as we speak to download and for all of our users. So with that note, should we start the presentation?
Why not? Why not? So let's start with a short introduction on the Chroma basics. So of course, Chroma Key is a technology that film industry has been using for a couple of decades already. So it's not something which is new. But what is new is the application in the mixed reality setting, especially as Varjo's XR1 is the only photorealistic true mixed reality headset. And this starts to be only interesting once you have actually surpassed a certain quality barrier.
Mm-hmm. That image is from the shoot that we did when we were testing out our Chroma Key. So we had quite a nice Chroma wall setup.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of the things that I'm sure that most of you have seen also already the Chroma Key video. And if not, then you can also see behind us this green screen. So basically what we're doing on the Chroma Key technology is that we are letting virtual reality push through everything which is of certain color. You can pick the color yourself. We support up to 4 colors at the same time, so you can also use those to adjust, for example, dynamic things being, for example, blue, all of the static things being green, or so. We obviously are very flexible, and these are features that have actually come from requests from some of our customers in the simulation space. So we'll actually dig down a bit deeper into those use cases, but we did this as per request.
Yeah, in 3 months, which was quite amazing feat.
And what it really allows is to have the true mixed reality, where you suddenly are able to mix real-world things logically to the virtual environment and operate with them, interact with them. But hey, let's take a look quickly also on the markers. So again, another not age-old technology, but let's call it like a couple of decades for sure, has been in use, and something that is very typical to augmented reality applications. So what we're doing here is we're utilizing existing libraries that let you track markers like these, and you're able to place virtual reality interactions on top of them or next to them. And it's quite different when you compare it, for example, to the use cases that we have in typical VR tracking systems. So, for example, if we compare this to the HTC Vive Pucks that we are also compatible with, this is more accurate. So with this one, we're able to have pixel-perfect location of the virtual object. So you can absolutely replace physical things. That could be, for example, a replica or a prototype part. You can replace that one with a material accurate representation.
Yeah. And these are downloadable from our developer website as we speak. So 3 different size markers, you can try them out yourself quite easily.
Yeah, exactly. And with these things, they're locked like super glue. You can, they're running at the 90 hertz, the same speed as our headset is running the VST cameras. So things stay perfectly put. You have continuity. So if you place a marker like this on an object, it's possible then to later on the next launch of the same applications, things will be appearing at exactly the same place. There is no drift whatsoever, which is super interesting. There is no hassle. You don't need to charge batteries in order to be able to utilize them. So very easy to operate. You don't need to pair them. Multiple users can use those simultaneously. It's super interesting and stressless environment.
I think the multi-user environment is one of the most interesting things for the markers. So when you have 2 headsets, 2 computers, they can share the exact location and the same digital element in the same environment. Super easy to do.
Yeah, exactly. And what we have done is that we have a super easy and convenient API to access them. So you basically get always the identity of the marker. We support up to 1,000 markers in the same space automatically, which is kind of interesting. And then you can build interactions on top of those very easily. So you don't need to be utilizing lower level libraries like OpenCV to utilize these. So you get easy convenience APIs for both Unreal and Unity for them. They're super lightweight, only micrograms if you just do the paint on top of an object, or if you use a convenience like paper, it's still going to be far less than a gram to make almost any object trackable. We support 3 different sizes, as you can see in here. So first one is 25 millimeter marker. The active area is actually 1 inch in each side. And it's usable for roughly half a meter. So if you have something in your hand, you can track that one with the smallest markers. But if it's any further, or even at like an extreme reach of the arm, it starts to be a little bit jittery. So we suggest that if you are actually building something which you want to be super reliable, and you use it within like an arm's reach roughly, so within 1 meter, you should be using the 50 millimeter markers. Because those are stable for any typical interactions. And then we have the largest one, which is the 150 millimeter marker, so 15 centimeters. And that's usable easily, reliably, up to 2 meters. And all of these ones operate. They're just not quite so precise, also the longer distances. So the smallest one, up to 1 meter, the middle one, up to 2 meters, and this largest one, up to 5 meters. But again, I'd say that they're all great to this medium specification in there.
And if we think about the practical applications for this for our users, take, for example, pilot training. You can put a marker in a cockpit, and you can put a virtual monitor in there. It can be a radar screen or any kind of info screen, and you can very easily adjust the place of it and put any kind of content on top of it. It can be video content, still content, 3D content.
Absolutely.
Very easily do it. And the same goes for car design. So if you are designing the future car dashboard and you want to try out different places where you put your info screens or any other 3D or virtual objects, these markers are by far the easiest way to do it. So it takes a lot of hassle out from the development, saving a lot of time and money.
Absolutely. So let's take a look at some of these use cases. So first one is something that you have also seen on the video, Chroma in VR. So we're talking about a case where we are predominantly inside a VR setting. For example, in this case, this plane, everything else is now virtual except that piece of paper. The point is that you can actually operate with the physical things that you would need to operate in a typical training session, like pilot card that lets you have the mission briefing and look at that one. Typically, they're actually here on your lap. Then the stick, you can see that one, obviously. As a pilot, you should know that by heart and not even look at it. But we can place individual physical things that you interact with. It could be that, for example, in the cockpit, some of those switches would be real. And again, we can have the perfect mix between the virtual things, the world around, the unnecessary things for the training in question, and then those individual things that you want to learn, the muscle memory. Because really, the positive training is what we are striving for, no negative training. So if you start, for example, utilizing the wrong type of training, like you're looking at the wrong places to be able to utilize an operation or so, it creates a negative training effort. And with Varjo, we focus on only creating positive training. So all the muscle memory needs to be exactly the same as you would have in the real cases. Whether it is a mission critical training like in here, or another mission critical could be, for example, nuclear plant training that we have been working a lot on, or it could even be much more generic training like a bulldozer operator training, which probably is as mission critical as these ones.
Yeah. And I think the first time that I tried it myself, it's absolutely mind-blowing. We never had this kind of sensation of immersion inside mixed reality or virtual reality. And what we have heard from our early access customers as well, they're saying the same, that they have never experienced anything like this. And
it's incredible the first time you experience your body being there with you in the virtual world. I mean, it is something that you absolutely need to experience yourself. As a fun fact, we are here showing some of the things that we're doing together with our developers. So these guys were doing like preliminary training for the video at the office. So you have one Varjo headset there doing an image of one of our developers who's wearing the headset.
I think we were using DCS flight simulator here. So we rigged one XR1 to take the image from the outside. So we were seeing the pilots from the outside of the dashcam. I think our inspiration here was the latest Top Gun movie trailer. So we were kind of like replicating that one. In any way, it felt quite cool. So these are the kind of things we do inside Varjo.
Exactly. Then we have an example of the like again a bit more mixed reality setting. So here we have a full cockpit. This is a Hawk training jet, and here all of the instrumentation inside the jet is actually real. And now we are able to replace the world around with a virtual image. Now, in this particular case, what is really interesting is that the quality of those displays, while our mixed reality is super high resolution, our virtual reality displays are capable of much better. So the right way to do this one, if you want the perfection in the quality, is that you place a marker on those high resolution regions. And then with that one, you are able to elevate the quality of those displays to be natural and comfortable for the user. And this is, again, like bringing the chroma and the markers together at the same time. It is also one of the areas where we support what we call a chroma marker. That is a green marker. So it's a green version of the same thing, and it allows us to have that perfect occlusion of the hands also in that setting. And here be an image of the chroma marker. Unfortunately, it's not there. I can actually show one of those a bit later on.
Yeah, I think later you will see them.
Yeah, absolutely. But here is another example of a mixed reality setting, because it's a range. In this case, we have decided that the only thing in here is going to be this lid that you can open, and then you're able to simulate, for example, how to do helicopter pilot or helicopter operator training for a rescue mission.
Opening a hatch. Yeah. Opening a hatch at the bottom of a helicopter, and you can actually see what is going on down there in the sea. So. And
as you can see, this is with a millimeter precision. So at the edge of the hatch, everything appears suddenly virtual. And it's really like a viewport into the whole different dimension.
Yeah.
So you can keep most of the things real and just adjust one or two things to become virtual, or you can make almost everything real, almost everything virtual, and maybe only you are the real thing inside there.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is you can make any size or any shape of this Chroma. So it's basically up to just the imagination of the developers and the creators, what kind of things you can do with the Chroma. So it can be a small, any kind of shape. We've been trying even clothes on it, and it's quite versatile.
Yeah, exactly. And in the design sector, when you think about utilizing Chroma, as I mentioned, you can do, for example, a 3D print of an object. I'm myself coming from phones background, so we used to be doing daily prints of the phone project that we were working on, like typically a few different parts being explored at the same time. And even on the bigger corporations, we only maybe made 2 material accurate models during a phone program, like first the vision version, and then at the very end when you start like everything is now nailed down, let's execute this one, then you would have the material accurate. And you never in between really saw the material version except in renderings. Now what we're able to do is that you do a 3D print, you pick the Chroma to be the print color, you attach a marker on top of that one, and when you hold it in your hands, it's actually the real deal. You can start running animations on top of it. It reflects the world around realistically because of our beautiful light model that we're capturing, something that Ville Timonen made for Varjo, as well as together with his colleague Petteri Timonen. And it really brings it so that the shadows, the reflections, they are actually correct ones.
They start to become like a digital twins of objects that you actually can hold in your hand. The occlusion is perfect. They follow the markers, the Chroma markers, and then, but you, through our headset, you can see how it would actually look like when it's ready. I think it's quite exciting. The future is super exciting. We are working on multiple super interesting projects on this one, so more of that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we have focused all of our efforts now into customer project on this one and cannot show an example of it because we have been working on the real deals. But stay assured, this is a game changer in the design space, whether it's a small thing or a bigger one. Okay, good. So then collaboration is, of course, always where, whether it is training or design, things really come to life. And when you think about the Chroma key, it's so interesting when we can share a space together and we are both seeing each other there physically. And we can express so much more when we're actually utilizing the whole body language instead of just having like pointers, like, look at this thing. It's not good. It's only half the expression. And when you do, for example, a Chroma key room and then have all of the people joining on a design session, it's absolutely incredible. Yeah. You can be there in the new Dubai skyscraper, but you are not there alone. You are not isolated like you are in VR, but you are there with your colleagues. You are there with your customers, clients, and any peer that you would need to have in there. And they really feel like the real deal. Yeah,
and I think we have a real-life demo of that one.
Exactly.
On the next as we get to the demo station.
Yeah, and what is really interesting is that you can then have also the physical things with you in there, and we'll showcase those during the demo for sure.
Exactly. So mixing the physical and the digital again with this Chroma and seeing other people there as they are is quite a game changer. Nothing that we have experienced before, but now of course we have experienced quite a lot with that one. By the way, that shot on the screen is together with the Autodesk VRED. So we were testing that out, and of course it works amazingly.
One of the interesting things is that our Chroma key at the moment works with any VR application. So we're able to turn any application into the Chroma enhanced version. And this is with VRED running in the normal native version and just getting people to be inside in there.
Exactly. It's quite interesting that any VR experience and application you have. Like we've been trying out Google
Maps.
Earth,
Yeah.
for example, and many others. So with chroma keying, you actually are turning them instantly into mixed reality.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible.
It's
And
pretty
suddenly you're
incredible,
not alone. And you can also use this in training so effectively when, for example, the focus of the training activity could be all with the physical things, and you're operating as a team or multiple people working on the same thing. You're talking with them naturally because they're actually physically there with you. And then the world around is the simulated one or whatever. So it extends so nicely.
One of the things we've been also working on is consumer research. So for example, doing a virtual storefront with the Chroma screen where you can see people, you can see other people, and then you can add real objects on top of virtual settings quite nicely. I think there was a very nice video of this one by our reseller in Japan, Elsa. Shout out to Elsa to Japan, and they've been doing a couple of experiments on this one. So really nice stuff.
Yeah, and hey, let's take a look at this one. So again, something behind the scenes. So again, a real face appearing on top of the Colosseum in Google Earth. It's some of the fun things that the developers every now and get to enjoy. The point is that it brings so much imagination into the work. And you can start exploring so many things that you can actually achieve with the Chroma key. It is quite a magic trick.
It makes it quite fun. All these kind of things we've been showing. I think one of the most funnest demo that we've been showing is this Harry Potter magic invisibility cloak. Yeah, exactly. And you can do all this kind of fun stuff with the Chroma key. But yeah, just another day in Varjo's R&D.
Yeah. And then, of course, we already touched on the marker tracking. So ability to share objects with the people inside these collaborative settings as well. So you can give an object that has a marker. The interactions can happen as a consequence of this transaction. When you're working collaboratively, the coordinate system is exactly the same for everybody, so it's shared in between the users. It can be just a single marker that sets this up, or you can have multiple markers to have like a super reliable coordinate system for the people. When you set up a scene, an environment which has the physical things and the mixed reality things mixed together, again, you place one marker and it's going to appear in the same place for everybody, or you place 500 markers and they all extend as they need to.
Yeah, and I think the example here that I'm actually holding through the marker is Volvo's dashboard or info dashboard that they shared with us. So just an example that with the marker you can put it on your dashboard and then put there, for example, an infotainment system, like in this case, it was from Volvo, one of our partners.
And we'll actually show some of these in real life pretty soon.
Yeah.
So that should be fantastic. Let me still check some of the things that we could do. So one of the things is that we can also track shape deforms. So especially the smallest markers, you can easily place tens of those onto an object. It could be a cloth, and then we're able to track the deformations of that shape. It's pretty spectacularly interesting. So you get all of these data points, and then whatever you want to do, it's up to you to actually make it. So ease of use, you can track absolutely anything. The accuracy is phenomenal. It's pixel perfect in this short distance area for each of the sizes, and it's millimeter perfect after that one. It's reliable. There is no batteries needed. It has the continuity. It's the same every single time you start the application again, and it's super collaborative, which is the most important thing in the mixed reality.
Yes. And you can put multiple of those, like in this example that you see, multiple of markers in the corners. And I think we did a couple of experiments ourselves where we kind of use it as an interaction tool. So you actually put your hand on top of one marker and then it triggers an action from the scene. So they can be used in quite nicely versatile ways.
Yeah. Very good.
Yes. And I think in the
now it's probably the best to go to the demos, and we'll set up for 1 minute and be back in 1 minute.
Urho feed.
Sanokaa sitten.
Okay, I hope you're seeing us. So, quick change of clothing, and then we will go straight from the point of view from Urho's headset, where we are going to see a Chroma version of an architectural scene. And I think, Urho, we are ready to walk in.
Okay, let's do it. So, now, because I'm starting to be closer to this chroma key area, we are actually able to be now immersed in a completely virtual setting. And I'm joined with Jussi also into this world. So typically, you would extend the area as much as you want for the chroma key drape. In our case, we have it for roughly 180 degrees. And what is super interesting is that we're actually able to interact with each other. We can place some of the objects here to become part of the world around us. And we are there both. My hands are here. I can actually touch these things. I would want to touch this as well, but duh, it's not real.
Yeah.
And your mind starts playing tricks so fast in here.
Yeah.
And let's do the other way around. So, yeah. Jussi, you can also take a headset as well, like this.
Good. Check this. So we are now in a...
Yeah.
Take it like this one, and then I will adjust it just a little bit. So let's try to adjust the scene a little bit. For some reason, this is not working. So anyway, but yeah, it's quite an interesting that you can see ourselves very nicely, see each other, and be in this room. Let's try again if this one would be working. Okay, now. So let us put in the location of a room, and then we are here, like this one. Okay.
So now we're good?
Yeah, I think
okay,
it's better.
Nice.
So,
thanks.
As in here, it becomes quite an experiment to see like what are the real things and what are the virtual things. So.
Yeah, and it's really interesting when you think about, for example, a sales case or a design case of an apartment, interior design, for example, in this case. We've been working a lot with, for example, luxury cruise companies, and they do a lot of the design inside virtual reality. Then, of course, they still bring the material samples to the customer because you need to often feel the things as well. Now, in here, you're able to mix it so that you have some of the objects are really physical, like these chairs. And in this setting, you would be able to have a feel that this is how it actually feels to be in the living room, right? And this is going to be the material for some of these elements. And you're mixing these multi-sensory things for the customer. And again, it's the same thing in training. So you're basically learning to operate with the real physical things. And this is what enables all of that.
Yeah, it is. Let me give it back to you.
Okay.
You can You can try it one more time.
So let's see. Oh yes, very
even
nice,
better.
very nice. You picked a nice spot, Jussi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you think about, for example, architectural agency developing a big new project, and they want to showcase that to the client. So I don't think, it's the most immersive thing that you can see is that, hey, come into this building that you're seeing, and you see other people in that building, and you can mix physical objects and digital objects in a way that you actually need to grab them to understand, are they real or not. So that's one example of the things you can do.
And now let's take a look at a training example. So a bombardier.
Yes.
So
now we switch to bombardier, and just a few secs we will set it up.
Okay, like this. Again, we're all in front of the Chroma screen again. And okay, I'll actually move us slightly. Can I? Okay, I can. Good. So ever so slight adjustment. And Jussi, if you would actually come here a little bit closer, because this is basically the size of this console. So if you come still all the way to this one, now you're perfect here. My co-pilot, Jussi Mäkinen.
Let's give it a high.
Ka-chung, like that. And again, like it's incredible when my hands are actually here on top of the objects. I can start looking at these buttons, and because of our great stereo image quality, it feels like this is a real deal. And I can like exactly position my finger on top of these elements, and things feel so natural in here, even though it's all virtual. And it's so much more powerful when you combine that. If I would need to learn to operate this radio panel, this would be the real deal, of course. So if that's the thing in question, let's make this real. And then all of the operation, everything is so real, and the surrounding is still so immersive.
And of course, if we would have physical controllers here, they would be perfectly occluded, just like Urho's hand in this case. And you could match and mix again physical objects to this virtual scene perfectly, and they would align perfectly.
Yeah.
And of course, those kind of training scenarios, what makes this super impactful is that these are easy to take anywhere in the world. So now the trainee can come. The trainee can stay put while the setup goes to wherever the trainee is quite easy.
Yeah, exactly. It's so important to bring the training to the people as opposed to people to the training. And this particular setup that we have in here, it goes to a single bag, and we have traveled to multiple countries with that on the airplane. So it travels really easily. And of course, in a typical training scenario, you then set it up to each of the individual training places, and that's it. But super easy to put together.
Yeah, and even this Chroma screen that we have goes in a quite compact space. Well, when we were traveling to London 1 month ago, I think it was quite a
super easy
setup.
Super easy.
Yeah.
Okay, hey, and this is perfect. So let's take a look at the markers next. Yeah. We have much more, I'd say, like fun examples for the markers. They're a bit less. They're more playful than these examples, but you guys will see.
So first, I give you just a fun example. So Pac-Man Arcade.
Okay.
Okay, just a second.
We are in very short second going to be setting up Pac-Man, and while that's happening, I'll give you guys a tour of the office. So here are our floors at the office, which is, as said, completely vacant at the moment. We don't have any life whatsoever in here right now.
Yeah, and of course not many people as well. Everybody are working at home, so a minimum setup here.
So let me place this marker in here, and lo and behold, we have Pac-Man. And now, because I placed it in front of the Chroma, my hands are actually there in front of this one. So again, I would be able to operate it. It feels so real. This is so magnificent. And let's now get rid of the Chroma and start looking at some of the other things in here.
So the next object, I will give it to you again using the Varjo's marker.
Okay. Do we have the Chroma away?
I think the Chroma is still on. And just a second.
Okay. So this one is a steering wheel example. So I placed it there on the pedestal, and we're now able to take a look at it from different directions. It's staying very nicely put. Then Jussi has actually placed here a Mona Lisa painting. I can actually take it into my hands from the wall, admire it. It's actually reflecting very nicely the surroundings. The quality is phenomenal. And then let's see, I want to place it here instead. So let's put it there. And now we have Mona Lisa at the Varjo office. So Jussi, what's next? Which one is this?
It's a woman.
Okay, so let's place. This is like an interesting way of staging the places. So we can place real, lifelike people, for example, in a physical setting. They're going to be there nicely put. And then you have an example of something that lets us, for example, track the light traversing in here. So again, tracking this with just a marker. All right, good. Do we have anything else we'd like to show on the marker side?
No, I think we have showed them unless there's some more trackers somewhere. But I think we are quite nicely done with the trackers. So
yes.
Of course you can take a look of the Pac-Man, for example. So it doesn't need a Chroma screen.
No, of course not. But then, yeah, I suppose it's interesting because now when my hands are here, but when I'm now not having a Chroma key, they're of course going to disappear. Now, we have made at Varjo also a depth-based occlusion model. It's a bit more noisy than the Chroma key model, but that would allow us to have like rudimentary operation of hand occlusion in a setting like this as well. And which is kind of interesting, but it's not quite as perfect as the Chroma key version is. Yeah. All right, so I think it's a good time for us to go to the Q&A sessions. Okay, hey, so I'm joined with Saku Tiainen and Ville Timonen, from our mixed reality team. And Saku has been responsible for the Chroma key very recently, and Ville Timonen was were you the second mixed reality team guy?
Yeah, I think pretty much yes.
Yeah, and Ville has been now since joining Varjo the lead mixed reality developer at Varjo. So we are very fortunate to have such expertise today in the house. And let's go very quickly on a little bit of your background. So Saku, tell a little bit what you have been working on recently.
Yeah, I have been here in Varjo almost 1 year now, and I have been working with this video see-through technology and video processing and that kind of stuff. And I'm the main developer of this Chroma key feature.
So we didn't touch this before, but how long did it actually take to implement this Chroma key to this perfect state it is?
Yeah, I think I started it in early January maybe, or in December. So maybe a couple of months.
Yeah, so super fast. And now already available on a mainstream release. So we call it early access because we still want to be developing some of the convenience things on top of it, but we really also wanted it to be accessible as fast as possible to our customers. Okay, so Ville, how about you? So what has been your focus on the mixed reality side at Varjo?
Well, when I joined a little over 2 years ago, basically we had to build the whole pipeline. I think the main tasks have been to make sure that the video see-through pipeline works well with the VR pipeline.
Also getting the latency down, that's been a challenge. The latency is very good now. And also depth estimation of the environments, something that I've worked on.
Yeah. Yeah, and the depth estimation is something which is getting better now all the time at Varjo. So it's super interesting area that has almost no end to it. You can always try to make it that bit better, of course.
Yeah, it's a continuous process, and we can expect improvements to come in the future releases.
Yeah, excellent. So very quickly, Saku, so how does a user access now the Chroma features, or a developer? So.
Yeah, at the moment we have it in our C++ API, so that's the only way to access it at the moment. But we are working on Unreal and Unity plugin support for it, and also some features will be exposed in our user interface in Varjo software.
Yeah, and now we have been using something which we call Chroma tool, which is a command line tool that lets you rather easily set up the Chroma key. Now that's not available by default on the software releases, but if you need to utilize and trial out the Chroma key in your application very quickly, you can reach out to sales@varjo.com and they'll be able to help you out, access that one, have a quick trials like the things we have been doing with, for example, Google Earth, and see how it's going to be improving your pipeline. So it's a great way to try things out fast. Okay, so then let's take a look at some other questions here on the list. So Mark is asking that, will there be a possibility of using the hand to interact with a marker, which has a virtual screen put on top of it, or the hand will interfere with the marker? Now, this is exactly the reason why we have developed the Chroma key markers. So maybe, Ville, you could elaborate on this one a bit.
Yeah, this is actually, we feel that many people need this feature. So you can have a marker tracked Chroma keyed surface. Let's say you are in a car cockpit and you want to replace a part of the real car's surface with a VR display. So the way to do it is that you have multiple markers so that your hand is unlikely to occlude all of them at once. And basically you can then make the VR content be anchored to those markers that are visible. So that way you can still move your hand over the markers as long as there is at least one visible.
Yeah, yeah. Excellent. So then we had a question from Andreas. Can masking be combined with Chroma key, virtual environment and cockpit? Inside the cockpit, a mask for video pass-through that shows the real physical cockpit. So masking can, of course, be combined with the Chroma key. And you can certainly make it so that you only mask a certain region to be the Chroma area. And that's, of course, the power of the Chroma key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about comfort? Is there any comfort experience in wearing the XR1 for more than an hour? So do you guys want to take it? Well, our customer base is using in the simulation sector our headsets up to 4-hour sessions. Typically, a flight training session can last 4 hours in civilian space. So in that case, you would have a mandatory break at the midpoint, roughly 2 hours at a time. So of course, we have been working tremendously to make the headset ergonomic. That's why it's actually so much heavier than the VR headset, because the counterweight is absolutely balancing the headset. Now, one thing that we would recommend is that if you have these kind of very prolonged use case scenarios, you can have something that also pulls a little bit of the weight of the headset. If you have like a scenario where you just sit, it's quite comfortable to make it so that you have a spring system that unloads some of the weight of the headset. That makes it super comfortable, but it's still so well balanced that you can absolutely use it for hour-long sessions easily. So I'm continuing with Saku now. So could you explain how the early access users can utilize the APIs to access the Chroma feature? So it's like follow-up question to the previous.
Yeah. Basically, the API has only some functions about this chroma keying, so you can set up your configuration through that API, and then you can enable it for your application. So basically, those are the features we are now exposing. And then later we expose maybe more features, maybe through the user interface or API or both.
Yeah. So then there is a question, this one for Ville. So is it possible to occlude virtual objects with the real environment? So, for example, camera image.
As I understand, this question is basically, can the real world occlude the VR objects? And that's one of the main strengths of chroma keying, basically. So as you saw in the demos, as long as your hand or your real life object isn't green, then it will naturally appear on top of the VR content. As you also mentioned, it's possible to do with depth estimation, but as anyone who's worked with trying to estimate real world geometry in real time, it's quite difficult to get the same level of pixel perfect silhouettes as chroma keying can get. So for this purpose, the chroma keying is the right tool.
Yeah.
And also the extra latency from this chroma keying is basically 0, so it's very instant.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. It's super. So, Saku, do you have recommendations what materials to use for the chroma?
Yeah. You should always have some matte fabrics or papers, because we want to avoid using any materials that cause reflections. Those are bad. And also shades might be bad as well. So the most important thing is the constant lighting, like ambient lighting, not casting any direct shadows on the materials and no reflections.
Yeah, very true. So, for example, this is not an ideal studio lighting setup that we have here, and you start seeing some of the issues with the chroma key feature, but really we have placed absolutely no helping lights in here.
Yeah.
So it's
And we have lots of outdoor lighting coming from up, so temperature of the color might vary,
true.
as you saw in those demos as well.
Yeah. So then a question for Ville. Does the XR1 have the same screen technology as VR2? Does it have the same blurry edges between the two screen types, the high resolution and the low resolution one?
Right, so basically the XR1 does have the same display system as VR2, so you should see similar display performance in XR1.
Of course, the thing is that we have been working tremendously on this blending. One of the things to take note is that we have a headset alignment UI, and if you actually utilize that one on the sessions, it allows your eye to be at the exact center of the lens, and with that one, I dare to say that the blending is not visible at all anymore, that blending region. But if you just put the headset on like it is, it can be slightly off from the perfect center, and then it's possible to see some of those artifacts a little bit, but they have been disappearing so much, and like I have been here throughout the 3-year journey that we have been on at Varjo, and it's like infinitely better than what it used to be, let's say, of course, 2 years ago, but even 1 year ago. It's like almost a night and day difference between the blending quality.
Yeah, I think it is our like 4th iteration of the blending algorithm, so that's something we are constantly keeping an eye on and improving.
Yeah, very good. So visual markers, how to make them? So really good question. So we provide a set of PDFs by default in A4 and letter, US letter standards. With those, you're able to print 500 dynamic markers, 500 static markers. So they're basically optimized automatically by the algorithm to be more suitable for moving objects, or more suitable for more static use cases. And What you need to really make sure is that when you do a print it on as diffuse paper as possible. But I'd say that normal paper, like copy paper, is quite good as a default in there. Make sure that you print in 100% scaling. Very often the printing systems scale to like 93% or something like that. Don't do it. It will utterly mess up the tracking with these markers in the way that you think that they're kind of tracking, but they're all the time slightly off, and that's because of the scale difference is slightly off. And all the algorithms go out of the window when you do that one. So 100% prints. I'll extend this one to the Chroma prints. At the moment, we don't yet have a direct recommendation how to do the Chroma marker prints, but we're going to be publishing those very soon. The only thing to note is that it's far easier to get the Chroma green paper to have glossiness into it. So we're going to be recommending certain paper variants for these prints. Okay, good. Okay, so then there is a question from Anonymous. What is the case of the slight swimming visible between the virtual and the real objects? Are the latencies of the virtual images and camera images equal? So maybe you take it.
Right. So usually the latency of the video see-through image is lower than the virtual, but we do apply composition time alignment for them. So the swimming the question is referring to is probably not due to the latencies. It's probably due to the tracking system, for which the markers are actually a very good fix, because the markers are tracked visually. So they are, whenever you're moving around a marker, it's in principle guaranteed to match with the video see-through location of the marker. So markers are a good way to sort of anchor your VR world so that it doesn't spin.
Yeah, markers, super glue of the mixed reality.
Yes.
Okay, great. So then Luik is asking, what key settings are available to users?
Regarding chroma keying, we are working in HSV color space. So we have a hue saturation value for this adjustment parameters. And then we have this target color we are trying to match. And then we have some tolerances for all of those components. So those are the basically parameters we are working with.
And the tolerances can, for example, be used to deal with, let's say, shadows you might have on your green, to make sure that it encompasses the whole range of the green you're seeing.
So then Drew is asking that can your real hands be used to interact with virtual objects? Example would be playing a virtual Pac-Man machine using your real hands. So maybe you can take that, Ville.
Right. Unfortunately, the only device where we have hands as input is the VR2 Pro, basically. So that's something you'll have to wait for the XR1 to come. Yeah.
Then Maki from Canada is asking, can I upgrade my VR2 headset to XR1? Now, that was for us the exact goal when we start working on the XR1, to make it so that you can purchase the VR headset and just slap on this mixed reality add-on to it. And you see, for example, from the cable being external to this headpiece, that was the driving goal. But we realized that to have the perfect calibration between the display subsystem and the camera subsystem, we had to do much more work than we ever anticipated. And that basically also led us to understand that the only way to guarantee the quality that our customers need is that we build it as a separate system. And that's why we have XR1 as a dedicated device, separate device, as opposed to just an add-on. Okay, then we have Mitch asking, oh, sorry. can I use the markers the other way around, delimit part of the real world that I want to see, as making it video see-through, in my virtual world, say an instrument panel. So I suppose, as opposed to utilizing the Chroma itself, using marker as an anchor, that next to this one make a window that opens up into the real world. So, Ville.
Right. So I think the question is that you are to start in a full VR environment, and then you want to basically carve out a window to the real world from the VR scene. So basically what you can do is that because normally when you render a VR scene, whenever you have alpha set to 0, you will see the video see-through feed. So now basically you have a area in your VR scene tracked with a marker, and then you just render alpha 0 into that region, and it will basically poke a hole into the VR world, and you can then see the real world on that area.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so then we have Luik asking that, do you have an example of combined Chroma plus tracking usage? And maybe Saku, you could take that one. So,
yeah, I think this airplane cockpit is quite a good example, where you can have visual markers on some displays and then some chroma color on those, and then you will have a hand occlusion on virtual screen.
And then the world around is, for example, the dome of the airplane could be green, and then your world is virtual after that. Yeah.
And another example is, for example, if you are in a car where you drive. So as you mentioned, you can use chroma green inside the cockpit or the instrument panel to draw VR content. And basically, you can also do it with depth estimation. The problem is that you have your real world surface, you have your hand, and now you want to draw VR content at exactly the right depth between your hand and the real world surface. That usually causes some Z-fighting, as graphics people know. So chroma keying is a very useful way to make sure that the VR content appears behind the hands but doesn't sink into the cockpit. And also, if you're driving a car, for example, setting up a reliable tracking system inside a car is quite tricky. So you can use markers basically to anchor your VR instruments inside the cockpit.
We'll take one more question, which is going to be that are there samples of using chroma key in an Unreal Engine project? If so, where can we find those? And Saku, maybe you can address that.
Yeah, at the moment we don't have any support in Unreal plugin, but we are working on that. But with this chroma key tool, you can enable chroma keying in every application you want.
Yeah, and then
it can be OpenVR or Unreal Engine or whatever you need.
Yeah, very good. And have we given any estimation on when we'd have the Unreal plugin available? Is it at the same time as the next software release?
So, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So in very near future, but we cannot disclose the date yet because things happen.
Yep.
So surprises happen, and it's better to not to commit. But rest assured, we're going to be bringing these things to Unreal and Unity as fast as possible. And then now we conclude. So thank you, Saku. Thank you, Ville. Thank you for everybody who has joined on the webinar today. So incredibly happy for this one. Thank you.